Hey there, my name is Jeremy, and today I'm going to talk to you about the death penalty. The death penalty, it can be argued good or bad. It's mostly just about personal beliefs and opinions when it comes to the death penalty. People support the death penalty because they believe the death penalty adopts the belief of an eye for an eye, which is, you do something to somebody, you should receive the same thing. Meaning if somebody's killed or murdered, then that should happen to the person that's accused of the crime, but that should happen only after they're convicted. People who do not support the death penalty, they believe that the government uses the death penalty to commit legal murder, making the government no better than the offender. They think that if somebody's killed and the government kills somebody, it's not really proving anything that killing is bad or not. There's other facts and beliefs that support or refute the death penalty, such as the usage of the death penalty, the cost, the prison or housing setup, and the design of the prison, because death row inmates, they require special setups and housing units. So I mentioned an eye for an eye. I'd also like to think of it as like a beating heart for a beating heart. Once you're actually talking about, taking away something that's going to end somebody's life, that's when things become more serious and more clear. We were asked about some kind of billboard, and I think the billboard for the death penalty would be something along the line of, do you want a man sitting behind bars, so it'd be a picture of a guy with bars, or do you want, like a picture of where they hang the person, or an electric chair or gas chamber, a picture of those along the interstate as you're driving. I think questions that are important is that taking someone's life only lands you behind bars for a few years, or even the rest of your life. Is that a severe enough consequence for the taking of somebody's life? The problem is simply this: why do we have an option for sentencing that is rarely being followed through, but it's still being paid for? As you can see here in this picture here, the red are the people that have, or the pink colors, the people that have the death penalty. The red colors are the numbers that are on death row, and the white numbers are the people that are being executed. So if you look, Kansas, they have 10 people on, 0 execution. Nebraska, 11, 3 executions. Then you get over to like Kentucky, 35 on death row, and only 3 have been executed. Pennsylvania, 211 on death row, only 3 have been executed. But still, we're paying for this every year, and when I say we, I mean the taxpayers. As you can see in this picture, I think this was pulled from a California website about the death penalty. The average cost per regular inmate is only $47,000. That's for people that are serving life sentences, or they're doing a few years in prison. If you look at the cost spent per year for a death row inmate, it's $175,000. That's $130,000 difference per year. And if you look at all the death row inmates that we pay for each year in the U.S., it's over $170 million a year taxpayers are paying into, and people aren't being executed. When it comes to execution, that's when it costs more. Death row inmates, they cost more because they're going through years of appeals. We have to make sure that they actually did the murder or they did the crime. We don't want to execute an innocent man. Sadly, it has happened. Having the death penalty is like having police officers that don't enforce any laws. They're just there to look good in uniform. The point of police officers is, to deter people from doing crime when they see a police officer. The death penalty, that has no such effect. It isn't deterring any crime. Murders and stuff are still happening. So my simple question is, what's the point in having it? The solution is also simple: to abolish the death penalty in order to save millions of dollars a year and put everyone on life sentences and life without parole sentences. It may cost us less, or it may even equal out, the death row compared to, somebody spends 60 years in prison. But abolishing the death penalty would get rid of special housing units with more security for death row inmates. They're usually held in separate wings of the prison, or like max facilities. And it would also free up some attorneys' time in courtrooms for more cases, instead of just hearing cases that are looking to be appealed by someone who has already been convicted once. So I'd like you just to think about this for a second. A man or a woman kills a loved one, or even a complete stranger, and winds up in prison for life. That's good, at least they're convicted and they're doing their time for their crime. Um, like I said, they're off the streets, but what good is it doing having the offender in prison for life? They receive 3 warm meals every day. They have shelter over their heads. They receive health care. They have access to school materials. They can go to school. They can work at job sites and make money. They can even buy special items like things we get daily, like candy bars or an Xbox or TV or ice cream. Now, if the individual lands on death row, they receive all the same things, but are often placed in special housing units, more secure. Then on top of this, already death row inmates have access to countless appeals and attorneys to make sure that this individual is definitely guilty, with no flaws or questions of doubt anywhere throughout the entire investigation and proceedings. This is where death row inmates get expensive. And who's paying for all this? Like I said, it's us, the taxpayers. The inmate's not paying for it. It's working people like you and I paying for everything to support a prison and death row inmates through taxes. So what I was just wanting you to think about is executing someone better off, even though it costs them more? Or is it better to have them, sit in jail for the rest of their life when they're receiving meals, special requests, healthcare, schooling? That's what we're all receiving now here. This is what I need you to do first thing after this presentation. I need you to call the governor of Wyoming. Either, if you can't make the call, then email him, or even just write him a letter and ask him to abolish the death penalty. He's going to ask why, but remember the reasons I provided for you today. If enough people start talking and questioning the death penalty, then change will come. Get the governor to question and wonder about the use of the death penalty by reaching out to him and stating your position on the topic. All the information I've provided for you to do, either method you prefer, will help make a difference. Help make Wyoming a better place, a cheaper place to live. That's the governor, Matt Mead. His phone number is there. His fax number is there if you can't call him. And then if you just want to write him a letter or send him an email, his email address is there. If you want to actually go and talk to somebody at the state capitol in Cheyenne, there's the address there at the state capitol building, Cheyenne, Wyoming. To conclude, the death penalty is a topic that has been argued and brought about for many years. Is it constitutional? Is it not constitutional? Is it the right thing to do? Is it the wrong thing to do? Arguments such as cost and if the death penalty is constitutional or not are the biggest. The death penalty should be abolished in order to save taxpayers money, lower attorney and courtroom usage, get rid of special housing units and tighter security for death row inmates, and because it is simply not being used. All it takes is a few determined people to raise awareness to the problem to our leaders, whether we get change for the nation or even just for our state. The change would make Wyoming a cheaper and better place to live. The results would be great. Less taxes imposed on taxpayers, free attorneys in courtrooms to help others, and no death row inmates in special housing units. They will all be treated the same, life sentences or life without parole. Instead of death penalty, the sentences life and life without parole would be used when needed, and the person accused, convicted, and sentenced would serve life and rot in prison, the ultimate punishment. Abolish the death penalty.